So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the concepts of polygons and the area and circumference of the 2D figures. So we have an objective today which will be to be able to determine the area and perimeter of polygons. I'm going to give you either a side, a radius, or a height length to determine the area and perimeter. So first off, what is an area and perimeters? In two-dimensional polygons, we can say that the perimeter is the distance around a two-dimensional shape, or the measurement of the distance around something. So I give you some random polygons. So we're just going to make some random polygon. And I have a five-sided figure. In this case, I would have to add all the side lines, like A, B, C, D, and E, and all those lines I would have to add together to get my perimeter. So this would be very useful in determining the fence. Amount of fence you have to buy around some type of plot of land. Now, the area is a little bit different. It's the amount of surface covered by a figure is its area. So if I have some type of polygon, close enough to polygon, the surface is the area, this whole amount inside. Now when we talk about area, we usually say it is in a range of blocks. So it's in the range of 1 foot by 1 foot blocks. It could be meter by meter. So what we end up doing is we say how many of these blocks can we put inside of our figure, and that's how we're able to determine area, how much of one thing can fit into another. So the first thing we're going to talk about in regards to area and perimeter is the rectangle. Now in a rectangle we have 4 sides. However, we really only denote 2 of them because we have 2 pairs of congruent sides. So we have the length and the width. So this would be the width, this would be the length. So L stands for length, and W would stand for the width. In this figure, the perimeter, or the outside edge, would be my L's and W's combined. I have 2 L's and 2 W's, or 2 lengths plus 2 widths. The area of, not a square, is a rectangle. So the area of the rectangle would be how many blocks would fit inside of this. What we want to say is we have the length and how many widths go into those lengths. So we would say the length of width. So L times W. So let's try an example problem. So I'm giving you a rectangle, and we're saying that the length is 6, and we're saying that the width is 3. Let's start with perimeter. Perimeter is equal to 2 times the width plus 2 times the length. We said that width was 3 and length was 7. So perimeter is 2 times width 3 plus 2 times 6. 2 times 3 gives me 6. 2 times 6 gives me 12. Add them together, I have 18. Now, I'm not quite done. I need to make sure I always include the feet, meters, yards, the measurement. So in this case, it is feet. We're not going to change it. Always will remain the same. As always, box to make sure we know what your answer is. Now next, the area. The area is equal to, easy enough, the width times the length. Plug it in. Width is 3. Length is 6. And we're going to get 18 as well. Now in this case, it's a little bit different. We're not going to say it's feet. We have feet in the one direction and feet in the other direction. We have 2 different directions. So what we're going to say is it's going to be feet squared, or basically in 2 different directions. So that's the answer, 18 feet squared. Now here you notice that it's both 18, it's not always going to be like that. The perimeter is not always the same as the area. Just be careful and look for coincidences, but try not to always count on them as being correct. Now the next concept is the square. In the square, all 4 sides are equal. So we actually are just going to note one side as S. S is known as the side. That's nice and easy enough. The perimeter of the square, there are how many sides? We have a total of 4 4 sides, so perimeter is equal to 4 times S. The area of a square is length times width, same thing as a rectangle, so side times side. Now S times S, that is completely correct, however we can rewrite it in an easier way. We have S squared. Now let's try a practice problem. Here we have a square with side line 8. We have that the perimeter is equal to 4 times S. So like I said, this is S. So perimeter is equal to 4 times that amount, 4 times 8. 4 times 8 gives me 32. So it would be 32. We need to make sure we keep it inches. It is not feet this time, it's inches. So 32 inches. That's the perimeter. Now, for the area. Area is equal to my side line quantity squared. So now I'm substituting, instead of S, it's going to be 8. So A is equal to 8 squared, or 64. Yet again, inches squared. And that is the area of a square. Now the next figure we're going to be discussing will be a parallelogram. Now this one we're only going to touch upon because it's actually the same exact concept of the square as well as the rectangle. Now, if I have a parallelogram, I have 2 things I need to consider. First, the base as well as the height. So H stands for height, B for base. The area of parallelogram is the same thing, base times height. Now, why is it base times height just like a rectangle? Now, in this bottom figure, I have a rectangle. And all I did was with that rectangle is I shifted it. I moved it over a little bit. I moved it about 2.5 spaces. But I still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rectangles in each. So those match. And what's with all these smaller portions? Well, good news is that I'm able to match it. That portion matches with this portion over here. All the rights match with the left. So I have squares that work. So I put them both together, they'll be complete squares. With that, I can actually take the whole object and shift it over, and it will be the same exact thing as a rectangle. Next one, concepts of triangles. Now in a triangle, I have 2 concepts. I have the height as well as the base. So height and base. Now one thing I definitely discuss is, in a quadrilateral, what's its base object? And that would be a triangle. So I can actually take this triangle and make it look like a parallelogram. Now, this is exactly half of the parallelogram. So we're going to do the exact same equation as we did in the previous one, which was base times height, but it's only half of it now. So the equation for a triangle is 1/2 base times height. We're not going to discuss the idea of a perimeter because we only get into the law of cosines and the law of sines, especially since I don't have a right triangle. So, let's work with this example. Area. Area is equal to 1/2 base times height. In this figure, I have my base as 9 and my height is 6. All I need to do for all these questions is plug it in and get an answer. Seems to be quick and to the point. So 1/2 base is 9, height is 6. Multiply it out. 9 times 6, 54. 54 divided by 2 gives me 27. Now, yet again, since it's area, it would have to be feet, quantity, squared in 2 different directions. 27 feet squared. Next on the list is the trapezoid. The trapezoid has one pair of parallel lines, so it's a little bit different than all the other polygons that we've dealt with thus far. In here we have three different values. We have a height, and we have two different bases. Now, one is noted as base 1, the other one is noted as base 2. It does not matter which one you place where, but as long as you don't call it the same thing. So this would be height. Base 1. If you want, you can note which one is which. We can say base 1 upper, and you can say base 2 lower. Now, if the trapezoid is turned or switched, you would have to change your parameters. Now, the area of a trapezoid, this one's a little bit trickier. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the average of base 1 and base 2. So we're going to add base 1 plus base 2 and divide by 2. That's the average. So basically by finding the average, so here is a trapezoid, we're going to find the middle. Basically turn it into a rectangle. Pretty straightforward. All we need to do then is multiply by the height. So we take the average of the two bases and then multiply by the height. That's it. Let's try a practice problem then. So here we have a trapezoid. Let's go through the pieces of information. We're going to say this. The top is base 1, 11 yards. The bottom is base 2 of 15 yards. And the height is 8 yards. The area is equal to base 1 plus base 2 over half of 2 times the height. So base 1 and base 2. Base 1 is 11 plus 15 over half of 2 times a height of 8. Be very careful about the order of operations. So I need to make sure I do the top first. So 11 plus 15 gives me 26 divided by 2 times 8, or 13 times 8. Multiply that out, 13 times 8 gives you 24 to 804. So 104 yards squared. Next one. Find the circle. In a circle, I have both a radius and a diameter. You can see here that I denoted a radius. However, the diameter is just twice the radius. So we can call that D. The diameter. Now, we can always rewrite the equation for circumference and area in terms of the radius or in terms of the diameter. So for the circumference, we have that it is 2 pi r. But since the diameter is already twice the radius, I can simplify it as pi d. Either way is completely fine. The more common way is the 2 pi r. In the area of a circle, we're going to use radius first. Again, pi r squared is equal to the same thing as pi times d over 2 squared. Now you can definitely tell why we use radius instead of diameter, because not many people like fractions. So I usually say with the radius. Let's try some practice problems with this. Here I have a circle. The circle has a radius of 3. Yet again, the most common is the radius. If I needed diameter 6, could have used that just as well and found the radius too. So circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Plug in r. 2 times pi times 3, which gives me 6 pi meters. Now, notice in this case, I did multiply 6 times 3.14159, so on and so forth. I want to try to keep my answers as exact as possible. So in order to do that, I leave the pi measurement in there. So we call it 6 pi. Now my area is equal to pi r squared. My radius is 3, so we have pi times 3 quantity squared. 3 squared gives me 9. So I got 9 pi. Its area is 6 meters squared. Please make sure you do not multiply out. You want to try to keep the answers as close to correct and exact as possible. Okay.